I know there's a bunch of YouTube reviewers that have uploaded their Rogue One reviews, but hey, I don't get advanced screenings to movies, so I did not get to see Rogue One yet. In fact, I won't even get to see it until Saturday, along with Manchester by the Sea, which finally comes out to our theater, so those will be the movies I see on Saturday, I'm sure of it. So don't expect reviews for those films until, like, Monday or Tuesday of next week. No, instead of giving you a review for Rogue One, I get to review Yoga Hosers. Fuck! Now look, I know Yoga Hosers is technically a September movie of this year, so this is quite the late review. But it's because I finally saw the movie last week. Thankfully not in theaters. See, this is one of those movies I was planning to skip entirely. Didn't know what it was about, barely knew what it was about, didn't look good. I saw one trailer for it and it looked like the crappiest thing I've ever seen. I mean, it was a brief trailer. It showed the gloriously terrible, just awful CGI and blood splatter and god damn it. Yeah, I was planning on skipping it, not caring about this movie, wasn't even gonna do a review, not gonna see it. It would be fine. But then I learned a few things. One, Kevin Smith directed this film, and this is based off of, well, it's a sequel slash spin-off of Tusk, which Tusk I found to be entertaining. I don't think it was a great movie, didn't think it was a terrible movie. It's more of a 2.5 to 3 star range. It's an okay movie. So I'm like, okay, if this terrible movie's a spin-off of that and it's directed by Kevin Smith, well, maybe I should take a look at it. Also, there was several different reviewers that saw it, or at least a few of the reviewers I watch have seen it, and some of which have absolutely hated it, some of which that absolutely loved the film. So I'm like, okay, it's going to be one of those movies that you either love or absolutely hate. And I figured I was going to hate it. But what actually intrigued me the most and felt like I needed to see this movie and needed to review it, this movie got a Fathom event. If you do not have a Cinemark movie theater in your town, in your city, wherever you live, chances are you have no idea what a Fathom event is. So let me tell you this. Fathom events are special screenings for special shows. Shows that normally wouldn't get a wide release, things that normally wouldn't be considered movies. A Fathom event could be several different things. An independent film, a classic film remastered to be put into theaters, a concert, an opera, a riff tracks showing of a movie. Movies that normally would go straight to DVD but have just a big enough fan base where it's logical to have a Fathom event of. To give you hints of 2 other movies this year that got Fathom events, it is Batman the Killing Joke got one, and so did the other Batman one, Return of the Caped Crusader, the one with Adam West. And another thing about Fathom events, they cost a lot more money than a normal ticket. Now, I'm grateful to live in a fairly small or fairly medium-sized town. Tickets aren't incredibly expensive. This isn't the city, so I think matinee is about $6.25 a ticket, and evening prices is like $8.25, give or take. So not too bad, especially when we have Tuesday movies that are all $5 no matter what, and there are some early bird specials at Cinemark, which is only $5.25. Fathom events, however, are I think around $11, more than that, maybe even $15. I only looked it up once because I wanted to see Dragon Ball Z Battle of the Gods, because it actually got a Fathom event in our theater. But then I realized the price and I'm like, holy crap, I don't need to see it that badly. And so when this movie looked as bad as it did and had a Fathom event of it, which cost more than any normal ticket, and probably even higher in city places. I can only imagine what Fathom events are like for cities. Like, if the tickets are already jacked up in cities and more expensive towns, then I can't imagine how much Fathom events would be. Are they like $20 or something like that? That would be insane to pay that much money for this frickin' movie. Wow, I just went on a frickin' huge tangent because it's better than talking about the actual movie itself. So what is the movie about? Well, it's sort of a spin-off, like I said, of Tusk. This time, the main characters are the Colleens, the two women that are in two scenes in the entire film of Tusk. And the one's played by Johnny Depp's daughter and Kevin Smith's daughter. So it's about these two Colleen girls that work at this, convenience store. And after some wacky, crazy events, suddenly they're attacked by these tiny Bratzies, which are tiny Nazi men, played by Kevin Smith, that are sausages made out of bratwurst and sausages and have concentrated sauerkraut for blood. And all they do is run around, scream random German words, and go up people's bums and come out through their mouths to kill them. Look, that sounds freaking interesting. It sounds completely bizarre, outlandish, maybe something that would be fun and entertaining. But the way this movie executes it, it was not entertaining in the slightest for me, and I just felt dumber watching the film. But anyway, they're attacked by these little teeny sausage Nazi men, and then they uncover crazy secrets and yada 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 and the rest of the movie. What can I say about this film? What could I say that could be anything remotely positive about Yoga Hosers? I can think of a few tiny things that people might enjoy about the film, but nothing that I personally enjoyed about the film. So let's think of some things that might be kind of good in the film. Alright, among all the really bad reviews for this movie, the slight positives that some of them give is Lily Rose Depp and Harley Quinn Smith give a good performance. Many of them liked these people. Now I will say they do have really great chemistry. They feel like really good friends. Probably because they are. I don't know. I don't know too much about celebrities and friendships and relationships, so I don't know if they are or not, but they do feel like it on screen. And many of the people that find this as a positive just wish they were in a better movie, but for me, I really couldn't see the positive. Yes, they have good chemistry. They feel like friends. They feel like they're having a fun time playing these roles and being in this movie. But for me, it was overshadowed by the characterization of these characters and just how much I was completely annoyed with them. They are the most generic teenage girls you'd find in a teenage comedy movie where it feels like an adult out of touch with how teens talk nowadays and act nowadays, and trying to write for such teens and trying to be very millennial, and it just feels awful. It's generic, it's too by the numbers, it's about these girls that can't get off their phones. They just keep looking, keep texting. A teacher takes away one of the Colleens' phone, or both of them, and one of them faints, and the other one's like, look, you killed Colleen, are you happy now? They're being snarky and sarcastic, but then laughing with it, almost like they're not really meaning the jokes, or either laughing at the things that they're saying as actors, as actresses. I don't know, it was just really... I didn't care for these characters a tiny bit. And it's probably even worse now, because before I had seen this movie, I saw Edge of 17. If you want to look for a teenage, unlikable character that is actually likable because the actress does so well, freaking Edge of 17, man. See that. Don't see Yoga Hosers. I know, two very different things, but this is that kind of character, that kind of teenage, unlikable character, drama queen that's really... It's just way, way better in The Edge of 17. It's just, I can't help but compare the two. Especially with The Edge of 17 still fresh in my mind. And then I can also see people finding this to be a movie so bad that it's good or ridiculous or not taking it seriously. Look, I can understand that. And if that's how you like it, then that's fine. But for me, this feels like a film trying too hard to be that. Like, it's not trying to be serious at all. It's not trying to make a good film. It's trying to be a cult classic. It's trying too hard to be a movie that's so bad that it's good. And in doing so, it doesn't feel genuine. It feels just not good enough ridiculous, but generic ridiculousness. Like, some of the movies that are so bad it's good, the reason they work is because it's people trying to make a good film and not understanding what a good film is and just going completely off the rails. That's what normally makes so bad they're good work, is because the directors, the actors, and all that stuff, they don't know they're making a bad film until it comes out and people start realizing, yeah, it's really bad, but it's so entertainingly funny, it's good. In fact, there are moments in this movie where I couldn't tell if they were being purposeful by doing this, or it was mistakes they weren't catching on, because this movie felt like I said, it was trying to be so bad that it's good, and so it felt like they were adding in mistakes in the film purposefully, but they don't come off as mistakes, they come off as just trying too hard to be mistakes. For instance, there are moments when actors and actresses laugh during the movie. Like, again, like as if they're having fun with it, but at the same time feel like it's purposely in there to make a mistake in the movie. Like, this one guy, the joke is that this guy does a spit take twice in the movie because they were talking about, the women were talking about periods and them being sacred and God. But anyway, he does 2 spit takes in that same scene. Later on, they show the past, and they show that there's a Canadian Nazi group, or at least one guy that's trying to form a Canadian Nazi group to get rid of all of the Jewish Canadians. And then when he talks about his whole plan in front of everyone in town, no less, or at least a small group of people in town, I mean, he's proclaiming it in the streets. So anyone could have seen it, but there's just like a small group of people. His plans of getting rid of all the Jewish Canadians, and a guy dressed up as a Jewish Canadian just walks. The most generic thing you could dress up a Jewish person in, and that's what the guy looks like, stereotype. But it's that same actor that did a spit take, and so this is his ancestor, I guess, or at least just the same actor playing these 2 different people. He's walking by, he hears the plan, does a spit take, but instead of being serious like the other 2 times, he starts laughing before it cuts and goes to a different camera angle. Like, he's laughing and smiling. Like, there's little things in this movie like that. And there's one time where one of the Colleens, it almost feels like they need to do a retake because she pauses as if trying to forget the last word of the line. I know I do pauses, but that's because I make up this crap as I do the video, but there's a pause, there's like this definite pause, and she looks as though she's trying to remember the line, and then she says the one last word, but it doesn't feel like she genuinely forgot it. It looks like she's forcefully trying to act as though she forgot to add a mistake in the movie. It's so weird, but it just doesn't feel genuine, and it doesn't feel funny. There's also 2 moments in the film, 3 if you include the end credits, where the Colleens sing and it just pauses for them to sing and do karaoke or sound karaoke-ish, and it's, oh God, it was a little painful, honestly. This isn't one of those movies that's a mess. It actually has structure to it. It has, all the scenes in the movie have some sort of purpose that lead up to everything in the film. So it's not like there's a absolutely useless scene, but the reasons that these scenes are in it are sometimes either so lame that it's just, you don't care and it just feels worthless, or could have been done in a better way where it still feels like the scene is useless. Like there's these scenes where the Colleens go to school, and this is all before the bratwurst Nazis attack them. It takes about almost halfway through the film before that even comes to play. Towards the beginning of the movie, there's a scene where a bratwurst kills a random side character that is just... It could have killed anyone else. They just killed this one guy, but for no reason whatsoever. And so, yeah, there's that scene, but then it goes to them going to school, and then having a senior party that they could go to, or they catch wind of a senior party where they're going to go to, and then they go to the house, and they're talking with the parents, and then... Like, there's all this extra crap that feels like it's useless, and there's little bits in each of these scenes that lead to the rest of the plot, but it just feels so useless when you're watching it. To the point where, like, just get to the bratwurst people. That's what we want to see. We want to see ridiculous things, right? And then when it gets to them, and it's Kevin Smith as these bratwurst Nazis, oh God, is it awful. Well, of course, it's him acting in the makeup of the looking like bratwurst people, but then must have been on green screen because that shrinks them down to the scenes where they're these little bratwurst men, and whenever they die and get splattered, it's just this really, really horrible graphic of this green splash. It's mind-bogglingly horrible. And I'm almost certain that it was meant to be like that. But that doesn't make it any less painful to watch. There's this random thing about these two characters being Satanists. Like, that's the most useless thing in the movie. Like, they could have just been people wanting to have sex with the Colleens. It still would have worked. You still could have killed them. But it's almost like, we need a reason for them to die. Let's have them be Satanists. Let's let them worship Satan's while still being Canadian, and talk about how Canadian Satanism, or whatever it is better than normal Satanists. Every scene where they're doing yoga with Justin Long is just painful to watch as well. Most of the film, if not almost all the film, is painful to watch, but that especially. There's very few jokes in this movie, but most of the jokes are just about making fun of how Canadians speak, how they act, saying sorry all the time. Every generic, stereotypical thing you can think off the top of your head about Canadians, and that's the joke. That's all the jokes in this film, practically. And if you think it's funny at the beginning, it just gets more annoying as the movie progresses. And when this movie takes so long to actually get to the conflict, to get to the point where this is the movie we want to see, in a way, it finally gets to the conclusion, like, almost right then and there, and it's just an awful conclusion that is, again, painful to watch. As you expect, because it's yoga hosers, because they're so into yoga, they use yoga moves to defeat the evil, and I'm not talking about the bratwurst scene, but later on, and it's just looks like yoga poses that, first of all, wouldn't look like yoga poses at all, but also just how can that be used as fighting moves? And I can see how this movie tried to tie in with Tusk and tried to tie in with this trilogy, not only with the setting and the characters being in both movies, but also there's a bodysuit made out of human flesh in this one, just like Tusk. It's not a walrus, it's a bodysuit with a hockey mask. And the bratwurst Nazis get in it and control the bodysuit. I can understand them having a tie-in with Tusk, and this is going to be their way of tying it in. But this fleshy suit looks far worse than the walrus suit in Tusk. And if you thought the Tusk one was frickin' awful, then chances are you're gonna hate this one. But this one felt so thrown in there. Like, why did you even need that? You could just use the frickin' bratwurst army. Heck, have one giant bratwurst Nazi instead of having this bodysuit that all the little bratwurst men get into to control. If this is the connection between Tusk, other than just the setting and characters, I have a feeling that Moose Jaws, or whatever the movie is called, I think it's Moose Jaws. I have a feeling that it's not going to be a moose killing people. It's going to be a person in a moose suit, I'm guessing, is going to be killing people. If that's the twist, then I'm calling it right then and there. This movie is horribly unfunny. I know comedy is subjective. Some people might find this funny. Some people might find this so bad it's good. But for me, I didn't laugh a single moment in this entire movie, which is bad for a comedy horror film. You're supposed to have a good balance of comedy and horror for comedy horror films. Just look at some of Sam Raimi's stuff that he's done. Just look at Krampus even. Krampus is a dark comedy more than it is a horror movie, but it has more of a balance of comedy and horror than this frickin' film. And the movie's entire message and the motivation for the evil person in this film to get back at critics. If you hated the fact that the critic gets it in the end, and what is Lady in the Water, and the whole thing about, oh, critics are evil, they just say nasty things, they're just haters. If you hated that, Lady in the Water did it 10 times better than this frickin' film. This movie, the whole motivation of the villain was to get back at critics. And listen, I can understand maybe it's trying to do parallels with Adolf Hitler. I know he used to be an artist. I know he got critically panned for his art, or something along those lines when he was in school or high school or college or whatnot. In this film, it just doesn't feel like that. It feels like Kevin Smith is calling out to all critics like, you hate my movies? Well, here you go. Here's a bad movie. Choke on it. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's either a movie that's being really ironic or just being very trollish. And either way, it sucks. Yoga Hosers, I'm going to give it 0 stars. But then again, some people really liked it. Some people love this. This is one of those movies where even if you understand there's difference of opinion, even if you understand, yeah, I respect people that they have different opinions, I'm not going to attack them for having different opinions and say you're wrong, because everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But this is one of those movies where it's really, really hard for me to understand how this movie can be liked. So if you like this movie, please tell me, what is it about this movie that's likable? What is it about this movie that's good? Because I cannot understand it for the life of me. It was just painful to watch. So, did you see Yoga Hosers? What'd you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. If not, what is one of the worst movies you've ever seen? I'll just put that out there. What's one of the worst movies you've ever seen in your entire life? And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews. I've got movie reviews of 2015 and 2016. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.